and the Siddhas, and the Vidyadharas and the Nagas. Thus they entered the ashram of the great sage who had become famous by his purport by his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is advised in the Vedic literatures that one should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of God, who is the Lord of the universe and the master of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. He is known as the Supersoul. And when one worships the Supersoul, all other deities, such as Brahma and Shiva, appear with Lord Vishnu because they are directed by the Supersoul. Text number 23. So, one second, it says here, uh, okay, text number 23. The sage was standing on one leg, but as soon as he saw the three deities had appeared before him, he was so pleased to see them all together that despite great difficulty, he approached them on one leg. Text 24. Thereafter, he began to offer prayers to the three deities who were seated on different carriers, a bull, a swan, and Garuda, and who held in their hands a drum, kusha grass, and a discus. The sage offered them his respects by falling down like a stick. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Just one second. Just want to check one thing. Uh, okay, so text 22. At that time, the three deities approached the hermitage of Atri Muni, accompanied by the denizens of the heavenly planets, such as the celestial beauties, the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, and the Nagas. Thus they entered the ashram of the great sage, who had become famous by his austerities. It is advised in the Vedic literatures that one should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of God, who is the Lord of the universe and the master of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. He is known as the Supersoul. And when one worships deities such as Brahma and Shiva appear with Lord Vishnu because they are directed by the Supersoul. Text number 23. The sage was standing on one leg, but as soon as he saw that the three deities had appeared before him, he was so pleased to see them all together that despite great difficulty, he approached them on one leg. Text 24. Thereafter, he began to offer prayers to the three deities who were seated on different carriers, a bull, a swan, and Garuda, and who held in their hands a drum, kusa grass, and a discus. The sage offered them his respects by falling down like a stick. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Danda means a long rod, and vat means like. Before a superior, one has to fall down on the ground just like a stick. And this sort of offering of respect is called dandavat. Atri Rishi offered his respect to the three deities in that way. They were identified by their different carriers and different symbolic representations. In that connection, it is stated here that Lord Vishnu was sitting on Garuda, a big aquiline bird, and was carrying in his hand a disc. Brahma was sitting on a swan and had in his hand kusha grass, and Lord Shiva was sitting on a bull and carrying in his hand a small drum called a damaru. Atri Rishi recognized them by their symbolic representations and different carriers, and thus he offered them prayers and respects. Okay. Text 25. Atri Muni was greatly pleased to see the three devas were gracious towards him. His eyes were dazzled by the effulgence of their bodies, and therefore he closed his eyes for the time being. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Since the deities were smiling, he could understand that they were pleased with him. Their glaring bodily effulgence was intolerable to his eyes, so he closed them for the time being. Text 26 and 27. But since his heart was already attracted by the deities, somehow or other, he gathered his senses, and with folded hands and sweet words, he began to offer prayers to the predominating deities of the universe. The great sage Atri said, O Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, you have divided yourself into three bodies by accepting the three modes of material nature, as you do in every millennium for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all of you and beg to inquire whom of you three I have called by my prayer. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Atri Rishi called for the Supreme Personality Godhead, Jagat Ishvara, the Lord of the universe. The Lord must exist before the creation, otherwise, how could he be its Lord? If someone constructs a big building, this indicates that he must have existed before the building was constructed. Therefore, the Supreme Lord, the creator of the universe, must be transcendental to the material modes of nature. But it is known that Vishnu takes charge of the mode of goodness, Brahma takes charge of the mode of passion, and Lord Shiva takes charge of the mode of ignorance. Therefore, Atri Muni said that Jagat Ishvara, the Lord of the universe, must be one of you. But since three of you have appeared, I cannot recognize whom I have called. You are all so kind. Please let me know who is actually Jagat Ishvara, the Lord of the universe. In fact, Atri Rishi was doubtful about the constitutional position of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, but he was quite certain that the Lord of the universe cannot be one of the creatures created by Maya. His very inquiry about whom he had called indicates that he was in doubt about the constitutional position of the Lord. Therefore, he prayed to all three, kindly let me know who is the transcendental Lord of the universe. He was certain, of course, that not all of them could be the Lord, but the Lord of the universe was one of the three. Text 28. I called for the Supreme Personality Godhead, desiring a son like him, and I thought of him only. But although he is far beyond the mental speculation of man, all three of you have come here. Kindly let me know how you have come, for I am greatly bewildered about this. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Atri Muni was confidently aware that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord of the universe. So he prayed for the one Supreme Lord. He was surprised, therefore, that three of them appeared. Text 29. The great sage Maitreya continued, upon hearing Atri Muni speak in that way, the three great deities smiled, and they replied in the following sweet words. Text 30. The three deities told Atri Muni, dear Brahmana, you are perfect in your determination, and therefore, as you have decided, so it will happen. It will not happen otherwise. We are all the same person upon whom you were meditating, and therefore we have all come to you. Well, purport by Srila Prabhupada. Atri Muni unspecifically thought of the personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe. Although he had no clear idea of the Lord of the universe, nor of his specific form, Mahavishnu, from whose breathing millions of universes emanate, and into whom they are again withdrawn, may be accepted as the Lord of the universe. Garbhodakshai Vishnu, from whose abdomen sprouted the lotus flower, which is the birthplace of Brahma, may also be considered the Lord of the universe. Similarly, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, who is the supersoul of all living entities, may also be considered the Lord of the universe. Then, under the order of Kshirodakshay Vishnu, the Vishnu form within this universe, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva may also be accepted as the lords of the universe. Vishnu is the Lord of the universe because he is its maintainer. Similarly, Brahma creates the different planetary systems and the population. So he also may be considered the Lord of the universe. Or Lord Shiva, who is ultimately the destroyer of the universe, also may be considered its Lord. Therefore, since Atri Muni did not specifically mention who he wanted, all three, Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, came before him. They said, since you were thinking of having a son exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe, your determination will be fulfilled. You see, the mistake Atri Muni made was he should have wanted the Supreme Personality Godhead. But when he said he wanted someone like the Supreme Personality Godhead, that means he didn't really know who or which personality was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, one's determination is fulfilled according to the strength of one's devotion. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:25, Yanti Deva Ratan Devam Devan Pitrin Yanti Pritrivataha. If one is attached to a particular demigod, one is promoted to the abode of that demigod. If one is attached to the Pitras or forefathers, one is promoted to their planet. And similarly, if one is attached to the Supreme Personality Godhead, Krishna, one is promoted to the abode of the Lord. Atri Muni had no clear conception of the Lord of the universe. Therefore, the three presiding deities, who are actually the lords of the universe in the three departments of the modes of nature, all came before him. Now, according to the strength of his determination for a son, his desire would be fulfilled by the grace of the Lord. Text 31. You will have sons who will represent a partial manifestation of our potency. And because we desire all good fortune for you, those sons will glorify your reputation throughout the world. Text 32. Thus, while the couple looked on, the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, disappeared from that place after bestowing upon Atri Muni the benediction. Text 33. Thereafter, from the partial representation of Brahma, the moon god was born of them. From the partial representation of Vishnu, the great mystic Dattatreya was born. And from the partial representation of Sankara, Lord Shiva, Durvasa was born. Now you may hear from me of the many sons of Angira. So these are the sons of Atri Muni. Text 34. Angira's wife, Shraddha, gave birth to 4 daughters named Sinivali, Kuhu, Raka, and Anumati. Text 35. Besides these 4 daughters, she also had another 2 sons. One of them was known as Utatya, and the other was the learned scholar Brihaspati. Number 36. Pulastya begot in his wife Havirbu, one son of the name Augusta, who in his next birth became Daragini. Besides him, Pulastya begot another very great and saintly son, whose name was Visrava. Text 37. Visrava had 2 wives. The first wife was Indavida, from whom Kuvera, the master of all yakshas, was born. And the next wife was named Kasini, from whom 3 sons were born: Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana. Text 38. Pulasaya Gati, the wife of the sage of Pulaha, gave birth to 3 sons named Karmasreshta, Varian, and Sahisnu, and all of them were great sages. Gati, the wife of Pulaha, purport. Gati, the wife of Pulaha, was the 5th daughter of Kardama Muni. She was very faithful to her husband, and all her sons were as good as he. Text 39. Kratu's wife, Kriya, gave birth to 60,000 great sages named the Valakilyas. All these sages were greatly advanced in spiritual knowledge, and their bodies were illuminated by such knowledge. You see how powerful Kratu's wife is. 60,000 great sages. Wow. Kriya was the 6th daughter of Kardama Muni, and she produced 60,000 sages who were known as the Valakilyas because they all retired from family life as vanaprasthas. Wow, all of them, all 60,000. Text 40. The great sage Vasista begot in his wife Urja, sometimes called Arundhati, 7 spotly great sages headed by the sage named Chitraketu. Okay, text 41. The names of these 7 sages are as follows: Chitraketu, Surochi, Viraja, Mitra, Ulbana, Vasubredanya, and Duman. Some other very competent sons were born from Vasista's other wife. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Urja, who is sometimes known as Arundhati, and was the wife of Vasista, was the 9th daughter of Kardama Muni. Text 42. Chitti, wife of the sage Atharva, gave birth to a son named Aswasira by accepting a great vow called Dadhya Ansa. Now you may hear from me about the descendants of the sage Brigu. The wife of Atharva, known as Chitti, is also known as Shanti. She was the eighth daughter of Kardama Muni. Text 43. The sage Brigu was highly fortunate. In his wife, known as Kyati, he begot two sons named Datta and Vidatta, and one daughter named Sri, who was very much devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 44. The sage Meru had two daughters named Ayati and Niyati, whom he gave in charity to Datta and Vidatta. Ayati and Niyati gave birth to two sons, Mrikanda and Prana. Text 45. From Mrikanda, Markandeya Muni was born, and from Prana, the sage Vedasira, whose son was Usana or Sukracharya. Sukracharya, also known as Kavi. Thus, Kavi also belonged to the descendants of the Brigu dynasty. Text 46 and 47. My dear Vidura, the population of the universe was thus increased by the descendants of these sages and the daughters of Kardama. Anyone who hears the descriptions of this dynasty with faith will be relieved from all sinful reactions. Another of Manu's daughters, known as Prasuti, married the son of Brahma named Daksha. Text 48. Daksha begot 16 very beautiful daughters with lotus-like eyes in his wife Prasuti. Of these 16 daughters, 13 were given in marriage to Dharma, and one daughter was given to Agni. Text number 52. 1 second. 49 to 52. One of the remaining two daughters was given in charity to the Pitri Loka, where she resides very amicably, meaning very nicely, in a very friendly way. And the other was given to Lord Shiva, who is the deliverer of sinful persons from the material entanglement. The names of the 13 daughters of Daksha who were given to Dharma are Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, Shanti, Tusti, Pushti, Kriya, Unati, Buddhi, Medha. Let's see. Titiksha, Kri, and Murti. These 13 daughters produced the following sons. Shraddha gave birth to Subha. Maitri produced Prashada. Daya gave birth to Abhaya. Shanti gave birth to Sukha. Tusti gave birth to Mudha. Pusi gave birth to Smaya. Kriya gave birth to Yoga. Unati gave birth to Dharpa. Buddhi gave birth to Artha. Medha gave birth to Smriti. Titiksha gave birth to Shema. And Hri gave birth to Prasraya. Murti, a reservoir of all respectable qualities, gave birth to Shri Nara Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 53. On the occasion of the appearance of Nara Narayana, the entire world was full of joy. Everyone's mind became tranquil, and thus in all directions, the air, the rivers, and the mountains became pleasant. Text 54 to 55. Well, you see, whenever a pure devotee or the incarnation of God appears, everything becomes very nice. And whenever a big demon appears, everything is, let's say, scary. Mm-hmm. The weather becomes very inclement, and people become afraid. So text 54 and 55. In the heavenly planets, bands began to play, and they showered flowers from the sky. The pacified sages chanted Vedic prayers. Pacified means they were very peaceful. Sages chanted the Vedic prayers. The denizens of heaven, known as the Gandharvas and Kinnaras, sang. The beautiful damsels of the heavenly planets danced. And in this way, at the time of the appearance of Nara Narayan, all signs of good fortune were visible. Just at that time, great demigods like Brahma also offered their respectful prayers. Yeah, so whenever pure devotees appear, the weather is tranquil and peace, meaning peaceful, and everybody's mind becomes peaceful. And everything becomes pleasant, the air, the rivers, the mountains, etc. Okay, so now Nara Narayan appear. Text 56. The demigod said, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the transcendental personality of Godhead, who created as his external energy this cosmic manifestation, which is situated in him as the air and clouds are situated in space, and who has now appeared in the form of Nara Narayana Rishi in the house of Dharma. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The universal form of the Lord is the cosmic manifestation, which is an exhibition of the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In space, there are innumerable varieties of planets, and also the air. And in the air, there are variously colored clouds. And sometimes we see airplanes running from one place to another. Thus, the entire cosmic manifestation is full of variety, but actually, that variety is a manifestation of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and that energy is situated in him. Now, the Lord himself, after manifesting his energy, appeared within the creation of his energy, which is simultaneously one with and different from himself. And therefore, the demigods offered their respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who manifests himself in such varieties. There are some philosophers called non-dualists who, because of their impersonal conception, think that varieties are false. In this verse, it is specifically stated, Yo Maya Virachitam. This indicates that the varieties are a manifestation of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, because the energy is non-different from the Godhead, the varieties are also factual. Material varieties may be temporary, but they are not false. They are a reflection of the spiritual varieties. Here, in other words, whatever we're seeing in the material world is a reflection of spiritual varieties. They are a reflection of the spiritual varieties. Here, the word pratichaksanaya, there are varieties, announces the glories of the Supreme Personality Godhead, who appeared as Nara Narayana Rishi, and who is the origin of all varieties of material nature. Text 57. Let that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is understood by truly authorized Vedic literature, and who has created peace and prosperity to destroy all calamities, meaning all problems, all bad things, of the created world, be kind enough to bestow his glance upon the demigods. His merciful glance can supersede the beauty of the spotless lotus flower, which is the home of the goddess of fortune. Purport by his divine grace, the supreme personality of Godhead, who is the origin of the cosmic manifestation, is covered by the wonderful activities of material nature. Just as outer space or the illumination of the sun and moon is sometimes covered by clouds or dust, it is very difficult to find the origin of the cosmic manifestation. Therefore, material scientists conclude that nature is the ultimate cause of all manifestations. Well, that's a mistake, but because the mundane scientists and so forth are not actually devotees, they don't understand how the material nature is actually functioning. Although they claim to be experts about the material nature, but they don't understand the material nature. Therefore, how can they understand the spiritual nature? So therefore, they're in deep levels of ignorance. But from the Shastra or authentic literature like Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic scriptures, we understand that behind this wonderful cosmic manifestation is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in order to maintain the regular procedures of the cosmic manifestation and to be visible to the eyes of persons who are in the mode of goodness, the Lord appears. He is the cause of the creation and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. The demigods therefore prayed for his merciful glance upon them in order to be blessed. So now we can get an idea how powerful the glance of the Lord is, especially when he smiles. Everything becomes very transcendental and pleasant by the smile of the Lord and by the glance of the Lord. And that's why it says, the demigods therefore prayed for his merciful glance upon them in order to be blessed. Text 58. Maitreya said, O Vidura, thus the demigods worshipped with prayers the Supreme Personality of Godhead appearing as the sage Nara Narayana. The Lord glanced upon them with mercy and then departed for the Gandhamadana hill. So we can see how powerful the glance of the Lord is. And it is all auspicious. The Lord doesn't have to physically do anything. Everything gets done by his glance. That's how powerful the Lord is. Text 59. Then Nara Narayana Rishi, who is a partial expansion of Krishna, has now appeared in the dynasties of the Yadu and Kuru in the forms of Krishna and Arjuna, respectively, to mitigate the burden of the world. And what's the burden of the world? Demons who have taken birth. Narayana, purport, Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Nara is a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Thus, the energy and the energetic together are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why it says Nara Narayana. Right? Maitreya informed Vidura that Nara, the portion of Narayana, had appeared in the family of Kurus and that Narayana, the plenary expansion of Krishna, had come as Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with the purpose of delivering suffering humanity from the pangs of material burdens. In other words, Narayana Rishi was now present in the world in the forms of Krishna and Arjuna. Interesting. Text 60. The predominating deity of fire begot in his wife Swaha 3 children named Pavaka, Pavamana, and Suchi, who exist by eating the oblations offered to the fire of sacrifice. So that means they're blessed. After describing the descendants of the 13 wives of Dharma, who were all daughters of Daksha, Maitreya now describes the 14th daughter of Daksha, named Swaha, and her 3 sons. Oblations offered in the sacrificial fire are meant for the demigods, and on behalf of the demigods, the 3 sons of Agni and Swaha, the 3 sons of Agni and Swaha, namely Pavaka, Pavamana, and Suchi, accept the oblations. Oblations are the result of the puja. From those 3 sons, another 45 descendants were generated, who are also fire gods. The total number of fire gods is therefore 49, including the fathers and the grandfathers. Purport. The grandfather is Agni, and the sons are Pavaka, Pavamana, and Suchi. Counting these 4 plus 45 grandsons, there are altogether 49 different fire gods. Haribol. Text 62. These 49 fire gods are the beneficiaries of the oblations offered in the Vedic sacrificial fire by the impersonalist Brahmanas. Wow. Purport. Impersonalists who perform Vedic fruitive sacrifices are attracted to the various fire gods and offer oblations in their name. The 49 fire gods are described herewith. Text 63. The Agnish Swatas, the Barhis Sadhas, and the Somyas, and the Ajyapas are the Pitas. They are either Sagnitka or Niragnita. The wife of all these Pitas is Svada, who is the daughter of King Daksha. Okay. Text 64. Swada, who was offered to the Pitas, begot 2 daughters named Vayuna and Darini, both of whom were impersonalists and were expert in transcendental and Vedic knowledge. Next, the 16th daughter, whose name was Sati, was the wife of Lord Shiva. She could not produce a child, although she always faithfully engaged in the service of her husband. Text 66. The reason is that Sati's father, Daksha, used to rebuke, or in other words, criticize Lord Shiva in spite of Shiva's faultlessness. Consequently, before attaining a mature age, Sati gave up her body by dint of yogic mystic power. Purport. Lord Shiva, being the head of all mystic yogis, never even constructed a home for his residence. Sati was the daughter of a great king, Daksha, and because his youngest daughter, Sati, selected as her husband, Lord Shiva, King Daksha was not very much satisfied with her. Therefore, whenever she met her father, he unnecessarily criticized her husband, although Lord Shiva was faultless. Because of this, before attaining a mature age, Sati gave up the body given by her father, Daksha, and therefore she could not produce a child. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu. Chapter 2. Daksha curses Lord Shiva. Text 1. Vidura inquired, why was Daksha, who was so affectionate towards his daughter, envious of Lord Shiva, who is the best among the gentle? Why did he neglect his daughter Sati? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the second chapter of the fourth canto, the cause of the dissension between Shiva and Daksha was due to a great sacrifice arranged by Daksha for the pacification of the entire universe, is explained. Lord Shiva is described here as the best of the gentle because he is not envious of anyone. He is equal to all living entities, and all other good qualities are present in his personality. The word Shiva means all auspicious. No one can be an enemy of Lord Shiva, for he is so peaceful and renounced that he does not even construct a house for his residence, but lives underneath a tree, always detached from all worldly things. The personality of Lord Shiva symbolizes the best of gentleness. Why then was Daksha, who offered his beloved daughter to such a gentle personality, inimical toward Lord Shiva so intensely that Sati, the daughter of Daksha and wife of Lord Shiva, gave up her body? What she gave up her body because she didn't want to have any connection to Daksha, her father, who was inimical toward Lord Shiva. Text 2. Lord Shiva, the spiritual master of the entire world, is free from enmity. Enmity means hatred. Who is free from enmity, is a peaceful personality and is always satisfied in himself. He is the greatest among the demigods. How is it possible that Daksha could be inimical towards such an auspicious personality? Now, that's a good question. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva is described here as Chara Chara Guru, the spiritual master of all animate and inanimate objects. He is sometimes known as Bhutanatha, which means the worshipable deity of the dull-headed, the Bhutas, meaning like ghosts and hobgoblins. Bhutas is also sometimes taken to indicate the ghosts. Lord Shiva takes charge of reforming persons who are ghosts and demons, not to speak of others who are godly. Therefore, he is the spiritual master of everyone, both the dull and the demoniac, and the highly learned Vaishnavas. Yeah, we see Lord Shiva, he is very, very kind, like extremely kind. So he'll even try to rehabilitate demons. So he accepts all the rejects of all the other sadhus and tries to help them make some spiritual advancement. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva is described here as Chara Chara Guru, the spiritual master of all animate and inanimate objects. He is sometimes known as Bhutanata, which means the worshipful deity of the dull-headed. All the demons are dull-headed. Bhuta is also sometimes taken to indicate the ghosts. Lord Shiva takes charge of reforming persons who are ghosts and demons, not to speak of others who are godly, and therefore he is the spiritual master of everyone, both the dull and demoniac and the highly learned Vaishnavas. It is also stated, Vaishnavanam yata Sambhu. Sambhu, Lord Shiva, is the greatest of all the Vaishnavas. Why is that? That is because he's merciful also to the demons and tries to help them become purified. Lord Shiva takes charge of reforming persons who are ghosts and demons, not to speak of others who are godly. Therefore, he is the spiritual master of everyone, both the dull and demoniac, and the highly learned Vaishnavas. It is also stated, Vaishnavanam yata Sambhu. Sambhu, or Lord Shiva, is the greatest of all Vaishnavas. On one hand, he is the worshipable object of the dull demons, and on the other, he is the best of all Vaishnavas, or devotees. And he has Sampradaya called Rudra Sampradaya. And he has a Sampradaya called Rudra Sampradaya, even if he is an enemy or is sometimes angry. Such a personality cannot be the object of envy. So Vidura, in astonishment, asked why he was taken as such, especially by Daksha. Daksha is also not an ordinary person. He's a Prajapati in charge of fathering population. And all his daughters were highly elevated, especially Sati. The word Sati means the most chaste. Whenever there is consideration of chastity, Sati, this wife of Lord Shiva and daughter of Daksha, is considered first. Vidura therefore was astonished. Daksha is such a great man, he thought, and is the father of Sati. And Lord Shiva is the spiritual master of everyone. How then could there possibly be so much enmity between them that Sati, the most chaste goddess, could give up her body because of their quarrel? Okay. Well, their quarrels between Lord Shiva and Sati's father, Daksha. Text 3. My dear Maitreya, to part with one's life is very difficult. Would you kindly explain to me how such a son-in-law and father-in-law could quarrel so bitterly that the great goddess Sati could give up her life? Text 4. The sage Maitreya said, in a former time, the leaders of the universe, a universal creation, performed a great sacrifice in which all the great sages, philosophers, demigods, and fire gods assembled with their followers. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Upon being asked by Vidura, the sage Maitreya began to explain the cause of the misunderstanding between Lord Shiva and Daksha, because of which the goddess Sati gave up her body. Thus begins the history of a great sacrifice performed by the leaders of the universal creation, namely Marichi, Daksha, and Vasista. These great personalities arranged for a great sacrifice for which demigods like Indra and the fire gods assembled with their followers. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva were also present. Text 5. When Daksha, the leader of the Prajapatis, entered their assembly, his personal bodily luster, as bright as the effulgence of the sun, the entire assembly was illuminated, and all the assembled personalities became insignificant in his presence. Text 6. Influenced by his personal bodily luxury, all the fire gods and other participants in that great assembly, with the exceptions of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, gave up their own sitting places and stood in respect for Daksha. Text 7. Daksha was adequately welcomed by the president of the great assembly, Lord Brahma. After offering Lord Brahma respect, Daksha, by the order of Brahma, properly took his seat. Text 8. Before taking his seat, however, Daksha was very much offended to see Lord Shiva sitting and not showing him any respect. At that time, Daksha became greatly angry, and his eyes glowing, he began to speak very strongly against Lord Shiva. Wow, that's a bad thing to do. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva, being the son-in-law of Daksha, he's married to his daughter, was expected to show his father-in-law respect by standing with the others. But because Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are the principal demigods, their positions are greater than Daksha's. Daksha, however, could not tolerate this, and he took it as an insult by his son-in-law. Previously also, he was not very much satisfied with Lord Shiva, for Shiva looked very poor and was niggardly in dress. Niggardly means not very nicely, very poorly dressed. Okay, text number 9. All sages, brahmanas, and fire gods present, please hear me with attention, for I speak about the manners of gentle persons. I do not speak out of ignorance or envy. Okay, well now Daksha is going to say some very, let's say, harsh words. Purport. In speaking against Lord Shiva, Daksha tried to pacify the assembly by presenting in a very tactful way, in other words, very expert way, that he was going to speak about the manners of gentle persons, although naturally this might affect some unmannerly upstarts, and the assembly might be unhappy because they did not want even unmannerly persons to be offended. In other words, he was in complete knowledge that he was speaking against Lord Shiva in spite of Shiva's spotless character. Yeah, but he might not be dressed as nicely as Daksha would like. As far as envy is concerned, from the very beginning, he was envious of Lord Shiva. Therefore, he could not distinguish his own particular envy. Although he spoke like a man in ignorance, he wanted to cover his statements by saying that he was not speaking for impudent and envious reasons. You can't hide these things. If you're envious of someone, you can't hide it. Text 10.
That's been happening since that time.
Yeah. Okay, so he starts talking now. Shiva has spoiled the name and fame of the governors of the universe and has polluted the path of gentle manners. Because he is shameless, he does not know how to act. Purport. Daksha wanted to impress upon the minds of all the great sages assembled in that meeting that Shiva, being one of the demigods, had ruined the good reputations of all the demigods by his unmannerly behavior. The words used against Lord Shiva by Daksha can also be understood in a different way, in a good sense. For example, he stated that Shiva is Yasho Gna, which means one who spoils name and fame. So this can also be interpreted to mean that he was so famous that his fame killed all other fame. Again, Daksha used the word nirapatrapa, which also can be used in two senses. One sense is one who is stunted, and another sense is one who is the maintainer of persons who have no other shelter. Generally, Lord Shiva is known as the Lord of the Bhutas, or lower grade living creatures. They take shelter of Lord Shiva because he is very kind to everyone and is very quickly satisfied. Therefore, he is called Ashutosha. To such men, meaning he's very easily satisfied. To such men who cannot approach other demigods or Vishnu, Lord Shiva gives shelter. Therefore, the word Nirapatrapa can be used in that sense. Yeah, Lord Shiva accepts all the rejects of other great personalities. Well, someone's got to take care of him. You know. Text 11. He has already accepted himself as my subordinate by marrying my daughter in the presence of fire and Brahmins. He has married my daughter, who is equal to Gayatri, and has pretended to be just like an honest person. Wow, just like an honest person. That means he's not. Purport. Daksha's statement that Lord Shiva pretended to be an honest person means that Shiva was dishonest because, in spite of accepting the position of Daksha's son-in-law, he was not respectful to Daksha. Wow, now it gets really nasty. Text 12. His eyes like a monkey's. Whoa. Yet he has eyes like a monkey. Yet he has married my daughter, whose eyes are just like those of a deer cub. Nevertheless, he did not stand up to receive me, nor did he think it fit to welcome me with sweet words. Text number 13. I had no desire to give my daughter to this person who has broken all rules of civility. Civility means improper behavior. Because of not observing the required rules and regulations, he is impure. But I was obliged to hand over my daughter to him, just as one teaches the messages of the Vedas to a Sudra. Whoa, the nasty. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A Sudra is forbidden to take lessons from the Vedas because a Sudra, due to his unclean habits, is not worthy to hear such instructions. This restriction that unless one has acquired the Brahminical qualifications, one should not read the Vedic scriptures, literatures, is like the restriction that a law student should not enter a law college unless he has been graduated from all lower grades. According to the estimation of Daksha, Shiva was unclean in habits and not worthy to have the hand of his daughter Sati, who was so enlightened, beautiful, and chaste. Well, yeah, Shiva wears a necklace of dead people.
Oh, Shiva, yeah.
Yeah.
Not Sati.
Yeah. So that would normally be considered very unclean, right? And Shiva, he accepts even demons as his disciples. He tries to help them. So that means he's associating sometimes with demons. Therefore, in the estimation of Daksha, Shiva was unclean in habits and not worthy to have the hand of his daughter Sati, who was so enlightened, beautiful, and chaste. The word used in this connection is Bina Sitavi, which refers to one who has broken all the regulations for good behavior by not following the Vedic principles. In other words, according to Daksha, the entire transaction of the marriage of his daughter with Shiva was not in order. Text 14 and 15, and then we'll end. He lives in filthy places like crematoriums, and his companions are the ghosts and demons. Naked, like a madman, sometimes laughing and sometimes crying, he smears crematorium ashes all over his body. He does not bathe regularly, and he ornaments his body with a garland of skulls and bones. Therefore, only in name is he Shiva, or auspicious. Actually, he is the most mad and inauspicious creature. Thus, he is very dear to crazy people, crazy beings in the gross mode of ignorance, and he is their leader. Purport, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Those who do not regularly bathe are supposed to be in association with ghosts and crazy creatures. Lord Shiva appeared to be like that, but his name, Shiva, is actually fitting, for he is very kind to persons who are in the darkness of the mode of ignorance, such as unclean drunkards who do not regularly bathe. Lord Shiva is so kind that he gives shelter to such creatures and gradually elevates them to spiritual consciousness. Although it's very difficult to raise such creatures to spiritual understanding, Lord Shiva takes charge of them. And therefore, as stated in the Vedas, Lord Shiva is all auspicious. Thus, by his association, even such fallen souls can be elevated. Sometimes it is seen that great personalities meet with fallen souls, not for any personal interest, but for the benefit of those souls. In the creation of the Lord, there are different kinds of living creatures. Some of them are in the mode of goodness, some are in the mode of passion, and some are in the mode of ignorance. Lord Vishnu takes charge of the persons who are advanced, Krishna conscious Vaishnavas, and Lord Brahma takes charge of persons who are very much attached to material activities. But Lord Shiva is so kind that he takes charge of persons who are in gross ignorance, and his behavior is lower than that of the animals. Therefore, Lord Shiva is especially called auspicious. Okay, we will end with this verse and take up tomorrow text 16. So it's very interesting. I mean, everything we read today is very, very interesting because you can see how Lord Shiva is most kind and most gentle and most merciful person. And that's why in the Vedas, it is said that Shiva is all auspicious. Even though he smears his body with the ashes of dead people, wears a garland of people's heads, dead people's heads, and so forth, but still, he is all auspicious. And why? Because he accepts all the rejects of all other sadhus or all other holy people and tries to elevate them. It's not an easy job, right? That's the most difficult job because all these other great sadhus have rejected these people, meaning that they think that they're hopeless, that they cannot be helped. But Shiva takes the dangerous task of trying to rehabilitate such low-class people. And in this sense, Prabhupada, like Lord Shiva, when he came to America, he started to preach in the lower parts of New York called the Bowery, where the lowest of the lowest people were living. And he's made devotees out of some of them. And it was dangerous. Like at one point, he was staying with this one person, and that person tried to kill him, tried to stab him to death. Prabhupada had to run away. Right. So, he was trying to help people who were in the lowest places, or in the lowest place in the United States, and that was the New York Bowery. You can go there today also. You'll see how the place is full of drunkards and dacoits and all kinds of strange people. I went there in the time when Prabhupada was present, to this place, this one park that was famous. And a lot of people, all the hippies would go there and smoke marijuana and so forth. And for the first time in my life, I saw two men kissing each other on their lips. And when I saw that, I was shocked. I'd never seen that. They were homosexuals. And right in public, in that park, what's the name of that park? Yeah, I forget now. It's a famous place, and that's where Prabhupada started chanting Hare Krishna mantra. I was shocked. I'd never seen a thing like that. I thought it was like really nonsense, but people were doing it openly. Tompkins Square. Yeah. So the Tompkins Square was a famous place. Why? Because all the perverts would hang out there, and Prabhupada, that's where he started the Hare Krishna movement, chanting Hare Krishna. Wow. All right. Is that right? Tompkins Square? Yeah.
It says Tompkins Square Park is the site of a spiritual revolution in the heart of New York City. In 1966, Srila Prabhupada ignited the Western world's first outdoor kirtan here, beneath the now famous Hare Krishna tree.
Yeah, that's where he started the movement, in the lowest place. So it's like Lord Shiva.
Hare
Prabhupada is merciful to the lowest people. And believe me, Tompkins Square was full of lowest people at that time, and there's still even today. Okay, I think we'll stop there. We'll stop at Tompkins Square and pick up tomorrow. Any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, I have a question.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
The Guru Maharaj, one Abhi's Sanskrit teacher is teaching him a Shiva Stotram. And in that, I was looking at the meaning of the each word, and 99% thing good. One thing is that I'm doubtful is um, it's they glorify Shiva as Maheshwara in that stotram. And then when I look references in Bhagavad Gita, Maheshwara, Krishna several times mentions he is the Maheshwara. So when we are in that dilemma, when can we glorify Shiva as Maheshwara? Because so we, how do we deal with situation? Like should we chant those
He is
sutras?
Maheshwara in the material world.
Hmm.
That's the way you can deal with it.
Okay. So,
He's not Maheshwara in the spiritual world, but in the material world, it's Maheshwara is great or greatest devotee. But that doesn't mean that he's the supreme personality Godhead, but he's the greatest servant of Krishna.
mm. But in Bhagavad Gita, when in the verse Bhoktaram Yajnatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, wouldn't that also
Word
include
Maheshwaram is
material
given
world?
to Shiva as well as to Krishna.
Yeah.
So Maheshwara typically wouldn't point to only one person. That Maha means one, not like that. We should not interpret it like that.
Well, is Maheshwara in the material world, not in the spiritual world.
Even though Krishna says Sarvaloka Maheshwaran.
Yeah, I'm the Maheshwara all over the world, right?
Sarvaloka.
Yeah. Yeah, but you see, because Lord Shiva is merciful to all the rejects of other gurus.
Yes.
So he's an exceptional person. He'll try to rehabilitate all the rejects that all the other gurus have, given up those people. That means he's most merciful. And it's dangerous. Yeah. He tried to help this one demon, Vrikasura, and Vrikasura tried to kill him. And Lord Krishna had to save Shiva from being killed by Vrikasura. So it's a dangerous business trying to rehabilitate demons. You know. But Shiva takes.
Guru Maharaj, we lost your voice here. We can't hear you, Guru Maharaj, for last 10 seconds.
Okay, Haribol.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, we can hear you now.
Yes, Srila Prabhupada basically did what Lord Shiva did. He started the Hare Krishna movement in Tompkins Square, the lowest place in the United States, where all kinds of, unholy people were hanging out. And, they were smoking marijuana, they were having sex, they were doing everything in this park. And that's where Prabhupada started the Hare Krishna movement. So he's like Lord Shiva, most merciful. Ashutosh. Ashutosh means very, very merciful. So he's trying to help the lowest of the lowest people. And actually, that's what that place was. I went there, and you could see two men kissing each other, homosexuals, and I was shocked when I went there. I had never seen that before. But Prabhupada went there and purified Tompkins Square by chanting Hare Krishna. That's where he started the Hare Krishna movement. He started it in Tompkins Square, the lowest place. He wasn't on the upper New York City place where all the big gurus used to go, in the penthouses and things like that. He started in Tompkins Square, the lowest place where no decent person would ever go. But that just shows how merciful Prabhupada was, like Lord Shiva. Yeah.
So, Guru Maharaj, then how do we need to differentiate when there are Sotrams on Shiva? Like which
There are
one to
what?
pick up?
There are what?
How to discriminate
Sotrams.
the Shiva Stotrams, which one for the kids to learn, not to learn? For example,
Well-
they use Maheshwara in this one stotram. Similarly,
Well, he is
whenever-
Maheshwaram in the material world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think Krishna says he's Sarvaloka Maheshwara.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, they're all controls. And another verse, Maharaj, when the three deities appear, they say that we are one person.
Mhm.
So I know Prabhupada explains further as different personalities, but I mean, this is probably where we need to understand that even though we are also distinguishing between all these persons, but they're all Krishna energy. So in the sense where they're controllers of different, domains.
Yeah.
So rather than, I think as long as we understand that domain, which domain they are controllers of, I think rather than just focusing on differences, I think we should see them also as devotees of the Lord. So
Well, the topmost devotees see everybody as a devotee. But you can't be a good preacher if you do that. If we have to come down to what is it, Madhyama Adhikari, so that you can actually preach. Right? If you're on the top level, yeah, Uttama Adhikari, you're going to preach to everyone, but that'll be a mistake in some instances. So, yeah, go ahead.
Maharaj, I remember a previous class, from you, where we were comparing, like apparently Shiva has like 55 qualities out of the 63 that Krishna has. I forgot which part of the Bhagavatam, but I distinctly remember there's something in the scriptures which actually lays out like how many qualities Krishna has and versus so Shiva has more than humans, but he doesn't have as many of those qualities that Krishna has, right?
Yes.
64 qualities.
Yeah.
So it is there in the just a few verses ago that we covered 4:1.15.
Okay, what is your point?
No, I mean, like if
So he's saying that he's not complete in that sense. So here is we just covered a couple of days ago, right? So the Krishna is 100% light. I mean, he's comparing it to the light bulbs and then giving the analogy. And then Vishnu Tattva has 94%. Then Shiva Tattva has 84%. Lord Brahma has 78%. And the living entities are also like Brahma, but in the conditioned state, their power is still more dim. There are gradations of Brahman, and no one can deny this fact. Therefore, so that's the explanation of like percentages that Prabhuji was referring to.
Yes. Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
yes, that. So I mean, that's a clear cut. I was thinking that's very clear cut. Who's the Maheshwaram, like in all the worlds, right? So yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, but there are other very elevated personalities in the material world. And but they're not on the same level as Krishna. Therefore, if you worship Krishna, then you satisfy all people. You don't have to satisfy this one and then that one and then the other one and then another one. By serving Krishna, you satisfy all the great personalities in the universe.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Yes.
Maharaj, when we discuss with other newly we want to explain the glories of Bhagavad Gita and ISKCON and all thing, everybody, some people say that ISKCON talks only Krishna is the only God. For others, they're calling us a demigod. We follow Shiva, but it is insulting to Shiva. Why we need to pray Krishna and all the question, Maharaj. How to answer back?
Well, you have to go to Shastra to answer back. So that's why we're reading about Lord Shiva. Yeah, he is very merciful. He is, let's say, the guru of the most fallen people, etc. But Shiva himself is an expansion of Lord Krishna. It's not that Lord Krishna is an expansion of Shiva. That's what these people think. They think that Lord Shiva is the origin of everything, and Krishna is an expansion of Lord Shiva. Well, that's not a fact, but that's what the Shaivites believe. So, how do you deal with such persons? Well, you have to go to Shastra, where Lord Shiva himself accepts well, no, sometimes you'll see that the Shaivites will say, yeah, but, in order to do certain things, Krishna had to pray to Lord Shiva, right?
Yeah, there are some examples.
Yeah.
Just like even Ramayana also.
Yeah. So for them, that proves that Shiva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and not Krishna. But one of Krishna's transcendental qualities is that he's very humble. So he is sometimes he can actually worship his devotees. Now, that means that he's the most humble personality. He doesn't have any false ego. So we have to gradually understand things by slowly reading the Shastra and understanding the purports of Srila Prabhupada. So today we're learning how Daksha did not like Shiva, and he didn't like his daughter marrying Shiva, right? Because he thought Shiva was unclean in habits and not worthy to have the hand of his daughter Sati, who was so enlightened and beautiful and chaste. Well, but Daksha couldn't really understand the transcendental position of Lord Shiva. His daughter Sati could, but he couldn't. Right? So Sati was so upset by her father's rejection of uh, Shiva that she committed suicide. But then she took birth again. See?
Yes.
So these are all transcendental pastimes, in the material world. There are transcendental pastimes, of course, in the spiritual world, but also in the material world. So the Shiva Tattva and the Durga Tattva are difficult for people to understand. So some people accept Durga as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and think that she is superior to Lord Shiva, or Lord Shiva, or ultimately Lord Krishna. So it's difficult for people to understand the truth unless they come in contact with a pure devotee, like Prabhupada. Right? So Prabhupada never rejected Shiva. He never rejected Durga, but he explained how they're situated in the what you would call the
Hierarchy.
the pantheon of exceptional people in the universe. It's called the who's who of the universe. So to understand the real who's who, you have to come to Prabhupada and hear from him. Otherwise, you can be misled by so many low-class so-called pundits.
Maharaj, only thing is, the concern is why in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada called as a demigod. The word demi, they don't like, Maharaj. I don't know. Because they say it is not given respect. That's what they explain when we try to explain it little more.
That's because they don't read Shastra. If you read Shastra, you'll know that there are some things that the demigods, some qualities that the demigods don't have, but Krishna has. So Krishna has all the qualities. And some demigods have like 94% or 83%, like that. So that's explained in here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. You have to read the Bhagavatam, then you understand the different levels of saintly people. But Krishna has 100%. That's why he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Guru Maharaj, should we consider Shiva and Durga as demigods from Gita perspective?
Yes. Yes. Although Shiva is almost equal to Krishna, very close to Krishna, 94%.
Actually, 84.
Shiva is 84.
Vishnu is 94.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Krishna is 100%. Vishnu is 94.
Okay.
And Shiva is 84.
All right.
But still, that is very close. Nobody else is so close. Yeah.
The closest we can come is 70, what, 8?
78.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thank you for correcting me. All right. Any other questions?
Guru Maharaj, when I did preaching in the village, I have referenced my villagers also asked the same question. The reference that I've showed is chapter 7, 20th verse, Kamastasya Hrutagnana Prapadyanti Anya Devataha. So, in that, at least in that class, I was able to convince that Krishna is declaring it here. And in the following verses, even for all the karmas for them to be fulfilled, also they come from Krishna. So I pointed to those verses, and they got convinced if everything comes from Krishna. So is that the right approach, Guru Maharaj, when we were asked when it comes to Shiva versus Krishna also?
Well, you have to be able to preach to people on the level that they can understand. So if you say everything, they'll just get confused. If you go little by little, then they can understand gradually who is who. But if you throw everything at them at once, they'll just get confused and angry, even maybe they'll try and kill you, So, yeah, you have to be very careful. You don't want to give overload of knowledge at once.
Yeah, I used to do that often. Very often I used to do that, Maharaj.
Really?
Yeah, in the initial preaching. That will only push people away. Yeah,
Yes.
you won't achieve anything.
Yeah. You have to go slowly, little by little, you know. Of course, you want everyone to be Krishna conscious, but you can't expect them to assimilate all the knowledge at one time. It's not possible. So you have to give them piece by piece. Any other statements?
So takeaway for me, Guru Maharaj, is I think for Abhi to learn Shiva Stotram, some of the Shiva Stotrams should be okay, right?
Well, Shiva is pure devotee of Krishna. He's the best servant of the Lord. So there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
And we also celebrate Shivaratri in about a week in temple.
Huh?
In less than a week, we celebrate Shivaratri.
Shivaratri, yeah. The evening of Lord Shiva.
26th.
Well, we have to be trained properly. So when we're celebrating Lord Shiva, it's because he is the best servant of Krishna. That's the way we worship him. And it's not that he is equal to or greater than. That's what the Mayavadis do. They think he's equal to. But he is the greatest servant of the Lord, of Krishna. So he has a very special position. Okay, so I think we'll stop right there and continue 11 hours from now. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.